Okay, good evening. We will get this evening's meeting going. So let me start again. I am so tired. Let's start again. Good evening. We will get this evening's meeting started. Please let the minutes show that all of council is in attendance for this evening, as well as different department managers, our CAO Rob Weber, and in chambers we also have members of the media. Item 3 is approval of the agenda.
Move that the agenda be approved as presented.
Councilor Smith will second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve the agenda for this evening. Any question? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion is carried. Item 4, approval of consent agenda. No items for this evening. Or anyone have anything they'd like to add? Okay, we'll move on. Item 5, approval of the minutes from the June 11th meeting.
Councilor Smith will motion that we accept them as read or as presented.
Seconded, Councilor Patterson.
Moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the June 11th meeting. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion is carried. Any disclosure of conflict of interest for this evening? Okay, we'll move on to item 7 of correspondence. The government of New Brunswick amendment.
So, in the Local Governance Act, it's a requirement, producing annual report each year. And draft is one. And there are a number of items which are required, if we look at the table of contents. Message from the mayor, for example, is not required. Mutual file not required, building facility not required. So I looked at, but once you get into the record of council attendance, that is, council committee assignments, that is, taxes and fees and with the rates and so forth, yes. All the information under operating budgets on 15 is standard and required, including, reporting of their annual surplus and deficit, capital budget. There's a mix there of things that are strictly required and things that wanted to added. Other financial data in there, providing some context. Remuneration of council is required. Community grants of what we've awarded is required. Key metrics is they have introduced a handful of on page 25. And you'll see a table there. Has a number of financial metrics. Now, asset to liability ratio is required, debt ratio, but there's some others there that are not strictly speaking required. So what, and then building development is not required, but often included in many, and key activity accomplishments is not regulated, like it's not a statutory requirement to sort of provide that kind of information, but in the annual report, it's sort of a chance to provide an overview of the year. So what I've done with this particular outline is obviously combined, checked up all the things which under the regulation is required, and you can see on page 5. Section 105 of the Local Governance Act has 3 items underneath it, and they're general, and the specifics of what is required under that regulation 2018-54. So, you shall provide Florenceville's sample. I looked at Sussex and Riverview and a couple others. So what this represents a combination. So I'd be happy. I would think our goal, I'm sharing this at this point because obviously, like for example, there's a message from the mayor which doesn't have actual text yet, but it's a placeholder for the message that the merchant may like to provide. It's an opportunity to share information with the community that's relevant, that be informative, and
This is a great step. And other communities in the valley have done something similar. Typically, Rob, when is this presented?
it cannot be presented until your audit is done because it hinges on the audit requirements. So it's really like audits can get done as early as second quarter, but many towns run them closer to late second, early third before they're ready. So really, as soon as you get that audit, those audit requirement, that audit, annual audit back, then you can populate this document.
And I've seen municipalities where council, specifically the mayor, in most cases, take this and then draft a state of the community type message. And it's done, it can be done, you know, in the lead up to Christmas or some special event or the New Year's Day levy or those types of things. This is a great step, and I think the public has a right to this, as much of this information as possible. And when we can add more relevant information above and beyond what's required, I think we should.
Yeah, yes, so what I was thinking is that, I'm open to any direction, feedback, council would like to see if other, you know, the requirements are requirements, so they have to be there, but some of the other things I mentioned, that going item by item are electives. And, I've added in there, because I think to Deputy Mayor's point, they inform the community about what's going on, how we're doing, et cetera. And, so, we're quite open to this. And just as a point, we didn't do one last year because it was kind of coming on the heels of amalgamation. It wouldn't have been as relevant to report on the last year's result to the new year. You still could have done it, but certainly this year, it's a good time to do it and look at 1.3, the first year amalgamation with the full financial report that be relevant to all the current residents of the town. So, that's there, and, you can provide feedback how you would like. And I'll follow up with the mayor on the message and the, report. And I would think our goal would be to try and release this next month, I think, and we can follow up, and that's my first sort of go through of it, so. And I was waiting as well, just happened to be out this week, vacation, so I was gonna check some of the financials and make sure they're all aligning good with her, so. Right.
So item 7.2.
Just an announcement that the first payment for the CIP is coming, so. For the CCBF, which used to be called gas tax fund, sort of capital.
Okay, item 7.3.
That is a note that we received since our last meeting from the province that the dog control contract, which had sort of been administered by the province, will expire and will no longer be, so we'll directly contract with the service provider for animal control next year. So for the end of this year, we'll do that part of the budget. It should obviously dovetail with the budget process to know what we can still go with the SPCA, but anyway, we're not, it's an open decision.
Item 7.4.
Just on the dog control for a second. Are we bound to the SPCA?
We won't be next year. So we have a bylaw appointment officer, for example, that could provide that service in addition to the other work he does, but there are caveats with that as well. What?
Is he not in plaster on? Or
He is, so I mean, that's one of the caveats is location availability and that kind of thing, so it may not be, but we can. Yeah, so it probably like most other services, it would behoove us to sort of look and see what service providers are available locally and to engage them and find out pricing and service.
Did Clarence Walton do that role in the past?
yeah, like,
I thought we did.
Do we know what the average response time to a complaint is by the SPCA? Like, what would be
No, I
the-
don't, no,
Well regarded, was it? It was well regarded in that role.
as I know.
Thank you.
Okay, item 7.4.
again, just information I shared with council to, that they introduced the new provincial municipal highway program for 2027, sort of the outlines of it. So that's something I think would be, at our, committee of the whole meeting later this month, we could go over more detail.
Okay. And item 7.5.
So I have shared with council, both in the council package that was available through SharePoint and was sent out an email. as well. I did go ahead and print it off, so for those who didn't happen to see it, they can just review it. But the New Brunswick Medical Educational Foundation is produced both the PowerPoint and information piece about physician recruitment, looking at from several angles, the economic impact, state of the nation type information. But probably the headliner is that they are sort of opening the door to municipalities to offer some sort of incentive scholarship to support students. So that's just one of it appears to be a key strategy in trying to retain and recruit physicians. And you'll notice in that, I think in one of the slides, they provide a quote on how many students they currently have enrolled that have committed to providing services in Brunswick. So that again is a good, the whole, I was there just to share the information, let council absorb and then have a discussion on them.
If it's the same program that I'm thinking of, there were 2 students in that program who actually served for a week at the medical clinic here in town in Cook Building. And it was, a really good experience for them. I know that their feedback was very positive, so it's a good program.
As a point of information, it's good to note that this year, within the last 12 months in the valley, we've lost 7 family physicians and we've gained 1. So a net loss of 6.
Another point of information is that our labor and birth services at the hospital are going to be shut down off and on throughout the summer for weekends due to lack of staffing. So that's not a good thing, not a good thing either.
Item 7.6.
I just included the presentation that Daniel Glenn gave to Andy Power when they met with us, the week before last here in Hartland. And, for council information, for those who weren't in attendance or, for either or, but it's for the others.
And item 7.7 will address in the new business section.
That will come up in, under new business, but they've just,
So we'll move on to item 8, council reports, and mine will be brief. It seems that between the Hartland Community School graduation, which we were grateful to be able to have at the Air Mortar Center in Woodstock in the field house. It was a lovely facility. Many thanks to those who organized that. A much cooler environment than it would have been at our own school here in town. So we had a lot of excited graduates, and we have received as well from some of those graduates notes of thanks for the scholarships and prizes that we awarded on behalf of the town of Hartland. So very grateful and nice to have the response back from them. So I had a couple of meetings with the agency. We were able to meet with members of the MB Power to discuss some of the ideas that we have going on with our waterfront project. So that was a very productive meeting. And following that, we also had a meeting with Minister Hogan regarding some of those same issues. Both very productive, I believe. And had the privilege of singing Canada, O Canada at the Canada Day celebrations. Many thanks to our Recreation Department and Public Works for all the work that they do in setting those things up. So I think it was a good, quick day. They get through their activities quite speedily. So that was my month encapsulated. Deputy Mayor Hagan.
Thank you, Your Worship. I attended all regular meetings of council. In addition to that, I took part in the presentation to NB Power on their visit and the tour throughout the downtown area. Also took part with yourself and the CAO at the follow-up call to both Ministers Hogan and Fleming. That's it.
Councilor Britton.
Councilor Britton attended all regular council meetings, plus they had the pleasure of attending a waste disposal presentation with your worship and Councilor Patterson in Centerville. And I apologize because I could not make the meeting with the Power Commission. That's all I have to say.
Councilor Michael Walton.
In regards to policing, we met with the minister in Fredericton, and then we have attended 4 meetings for the new arena, and then our 2 council meetings. That's enough.
Thank you. Councilor Smith.
Well, I did miss one meeting in June due to other obligations with work, but I likewise attended the meeting with the Glen Group and NB Power, and did the visit downtown, visit to the complex since that earlier June meeting. Communication with the Knowles Larson Learning Center about a number of items they've asked us to take a look at, and with Hartland on the Green Committee for the upcoming events, and some general communication like that with some stakeholders and community members, and that would summarize the last couple of weeks.
Councilor Sam Walton.
I attended all council meetings. We also had a meeting, I'm not sure of the date now, but we did have a meeting with DTI. Was that in June? That was June. We had a meeting here, I don't think, the infrastructure meeting, yeah. Other than that, that's about it for me this month.
And Councilor Patterson.
I'd like to ask the council to attend all scheduled meetings, as well as have the privilege to attend the MD Power meeting with the Glen Group. I thought that meeting was very impactful. I'll still obviously coming up. In your passion here. That's all.
Thank you. Item 9, special reports. 9.1 is the status of the waterfront project application.
Yes, so I think the mayor and deputy mayor both commented in the meetings, that we have with NB Power and with Ministers Plumbing and Hogan. Following that, today we had a follow-up meeting with 2 members of the river operations team at NB Power who came here to visit, and Daniel came back today. They took a tour, same tour that we went on before. They were looking from an operations perspective, and while they're going to officially report back to their management team, they didn't see any issues with that. They didn't see any operational issues that would interfere with. So we sort of Daniel reiterated the request we made to have a letter by the end of the month, so we can sort of move forward with funding applications and so forth. And so I think it's fair to say that was fairly positive meeting today, and this is another step they've taken. And we were just notified of this yesterday. So they said they'd like to meet today or Wednesday to come down, and Daniel very generously obliged and was able to come down and visit, and we just caught it back in the break. So just missed it. Yeah, we did all right. So.
Question.
Yes.
Overall, as I was not able to attend, what are your feelings on how the meeting went with the Power Commission? Was it positive?
Yes.
So has the situation changed? Or are you?
I think it's fair to say that, in fairness to NB Power, we'd sent a couple different, requests or asks to them, and, they weren't only, regarding the waterfront project. So when we tuned their attention to looking at the waterfront project specifically, they were able to reassess it, and when they did so, I think generally it looks favorable that they'll be supportive of that project moving forward.
So you go cut their trees? Oh, okay. Thank you.
And 2 and 5.
Item 9.2.
So there's kind of 3 requests for funding that are in play for the complex. One is demo funding, which is we have used Belcare or I should say redirected funding requests through Belcare to Regional Development Corporation for $150,000. If successful, we would stand to get 3/4 to 80% of that funding back, or in that ballpark, for about $150K. We haven't heard any decision on that yet, but assume that it'll be forthcoming in the next few weeks. The second one is the water pump. So when we talked to the Regional Development Corporation, and Lisa Busson is the lady we interface with there that oversees our project. She was looking for something in our, budget that was not part of the original budget. And the water pump was, when we originally, made a request for the, 9.8, and that wasn't something that we understood would be part of it. So that means it's eligible, to be added on to funding. So, I did get a call from her on Friday, where she inquired about when we purchased, because there's a fiscal year end that ends in March. And we purchased it after that, which is good. So that tells me they're still reviewing that and looking at it actively. So sounds like that may be moving forward, or is moving forward and along. Then there's a larger request we had made through Minister Hogan for $750,000, sort of the all-in differential that we were asking for there, and have not heard specifically on that, but that 150 for the fire pump is a subset of that, so it's part of the 750. So if we are successful or able to get funding for that, and so too is the demo. So if those two come through, we are nearly half of that request, and would be forthcoming. So, and that's kind of the update on the arena. That's the funding perspective, but that's the main thing. I think it's fair to say from a general status that, and there are members of the committee here, like, Councilor Walton could comment, but we're in the home stretch here. We're in the 10 to 12 week span before, opening, and we would get ice. So there's a long to-do list of things, both to do with construction and just operational items, getting staff training, arranging opening ceremonies, working with the Indigenous and so forth. We have, and to that point, we just had a meeting on Monday where 3 representatives of Indigenous came to visit. And what I've talked about, and I did have a conversation with the mayor about this, is that this is a good juncture right now to reconstitute the Indigenous committee we've had. It's the nature of this that while the building is being constructed and things are being finished and decided, a decision like where to and how to do representation and recognition isn't really possible, because you're not really sure what real estate is available inside the arena and so forth. Well, now we kind of know that, and so we had talked about a particular wall, particular space in there and what we could do. And so I think what our plan is to sort of continue to engage them. And we had some some good specific ideas about the type of art and so forth that they would like, and that also there's discussion about it wouldn't just be, there'd be Indigenous representation combined with community, if you will, local Hartland to come on together, be integrated. So yeah, that's very much on the go, and now it's one of those issues, like a lot of them, that you can start to see daylight, or you can start to see, oh, that's how we'll result, how we'll complete this particular task and move forward. So anyhow, so we'll be scheduling some meetings, some new meetings with Indigenous and Consultation Committee, and then engaging them and sort of reaching decisions on what we do for that particular piece of the project.
I'm glad that was so positive, and that we're, that much closer to getting all the pieces put together. So that's very good.
Just touch on what we looked about, some of the cement inside the building. That was looked after and very successful on their behalf. And so.
Okay.
How did the floor, was there anything,
No,
everything went in great?
really good.
Awesome. Excellent.
That's good to hear.
Thank you for that. Next item is 9.3, Rockland speed issue.
So I'll go back to the meeting we held some time ago with DPI and Sebastian Roy, the district engineer, in which we started dialogue with him about, what right we have to sort of define speed limits and that sort of thing. So long story short, the town really has gone, in the past, in those areas, it may have been more of a DTI decision. Now it's one they really just sent to, or that we can decide. We're talking about Rockland, if we want to lower the limit, for example, from 80 to 50, we can do so. It's just, our decision to do so and define where it starts and that sort of thing. At what point it transitions. So I think right now, I think it's where we have an 80 to a 50 to an 80 or something like that in that area. Is that wrong? 80, like,
It's just an 80 to 50.
80 to 50. So the 80 though does extend out past that area that was of concern to the local residents and so forth. Without digressing too much, I'll say I recently went to Montreal and I was in a residential area and I've never seen this, but there were a number, they have taken, rather than the speed bumps, they have quite amply in the Dorval area of Montreal. They put in posts that force you like speed wickets to slow down to go through them, but you can't possibly go through. So you could put a single one up in the middle of the road, for example, that would have some effect there, which is just another option. Nothing I'm recommending at this point, but just to say that it absolutely, I can tell you, works in terms of your speed, because you have to be fairly cautious and attentive as you're driving through, so you don't scratch the cars at work. And rather than speed bumps, they've took doing that, which and it wasn't a few, it was this one neighborhood, it was every street.
Where,
So they probably have the sides of the roads though paved though, wouldn't they, compared to
They
the
do.
Rockland Road?
They do. Yeah, it's a little different there. It is a little different there. But in any event, we can, so there's a few things. So what we will do, and I don't know if, I know Jed's sort of been looking at this as well, if there's anything we might add as a comment, but what we're planning on doing, I think we're leaning towards looking at some sort of adjustment in the rate of speed out there past that area, lowering it to 50, but there may be supplemental things too.
Is it just that road that we have the discretion?
That was where the residents come in and face the concern.
Mhm.
We're doing the wire to look at things, we're starting with that one.
Okay,
So,
would it,
is changing the speed limit gonna stop the speed?
Well, that's
Those people are still gonna
at the
drive.
risk of sounding rhetorical, that's an argument against all speed limits, so, right, you wouldn't have any.
Maybe a post or two right in the middle of the road might slow them down.
I'm just wondering if we could have something in place before I mean, I don't know what we want to do, but I'd like to have something in place before the new school year. Because that is a bad turn and there are kids that are being
I think
picked
that's
up
a mean-
on that turn.
and we are reaching out to the regional valley first, and they do have the two to submit the written point. You do have the two, speed,
sort of, I can tell you, I just had, the solar.
they have two solar, speed indicated signs, sorry. And supposedly they've been in disrepair for a few years.
Yes.
I'm trying to get my hands on one of them. I wanna see what the repair is needed for them. If it's something that we can provide and pass off to them after the fact so that we can get one of those up. If we were to go to the 50 limit.
The other quick note, that speed wicket, I think would be less, it would make less sense, let's say on Rockland where that is. It might not be senseless to consider in a place like Hillcrest, where it's the residential road where you have low speed limit. And it definitely has the effect of, you have to pay attention driving down in order not to strike it. So,
So would our ability to adjust speed limits, would that also include the area between, let's say, the library and Tim Hortons?
yes, all of
The
it,
way they explained it to us in the
Hold on.
meeting, we can
We
change
always
it.
have that
yeah,
inside of the.
inside Old Park.
But the way they explained it, Sebastian explained it, anything that is now considered Heartland, that we can decide what speed limits are with in conjunction with them, but it's really at the end of the day, the way I understood it is it's up to us as a town. We can decide speed limits.
It's great that we're talking about this. I'm glad that it's come back up again.
If I may, Councilor, to your point about the, will make a difference putting out a 50 sign. Personal,
You know what I mean?
I know, I do, and my point with that is, it's all optics, right? So if someone's speeding down that road, right, and they see a 50 sign, they realize the amount, faster than going is much more than what that sign says, so, and it's more enforceable,
Yeah.
right? So it's, some people change things, some people doesn't, but, if we can get that mindset now going before, before school starts.
If you set up a speed check over on 103 through Somerville by your place,
Right.
and the speed limit there is 50.
It was 70.
70.
Nobody goes 50 down through some of them. It just absolutely doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And the,
Well, all we can do, we can't change people's habits. We can do our best as due diligence
Right.
to try to curb as much as we can.
And not that we would necessarily invoke the option, but, we certainly have a relationship now with the RCMP where I think
Yeah.
we could, ask for some monitoring at certain speed, areas if we decide that would be useful.
I'd really like to have something in place for the school year. I love something. So all there is now is a sharp turn zone.
I think that's definitely would be the way we're looking at it as well as trying next before September to have an adjustment. So what we plan to do is come forward to recommend, I think, next committee, the whole come forward to recommendation, get council feedback and then seek to implement something in August.
Great. Can I ask this question? How far can you extend a school zone? Cause I see them in different communities, are a long ways away from schools. Point in case in the village in Maryland, right, or at least that area, they have school zones set up long before you ever get near the school in Maryland. And I'm talking within a kilometer, maybe kilometer and a half. I wonder if it's not something else to explore, to get additional signage for a school zone on the opposite side of that turn, because their fines double, right? Or triple in some cases, depending on the school zone piece, but that would reduce it substantially around there. And put a little more teeth into.
I think it's 900 meters in each direction. And the equivalent of school bus stop, maximum.
That's 1 kilometer. 1.1 or 1.2, they don't stop
Used to be 900 meters.
more than that now. They extend it.
Well,
Yeah.
And this will be a test case for us too, in partnership with DTI, as Councilor Sam mentioned. We'll run it by them and we'll see how effective this partnership's gonna be going forward.
Great. Okay, item 9.4, roof repair.
I think it was the week before last, we were contacted again by Sebastian Roy. And who informed us, they will be doing roof repairs, this year. Will be, and I think what we discussed, although I don't know if Jed's seen evidence of it, they talked about potentially putting up scaffolding. And the infrastructure for doing that before Big Bridge Fest potentially, and then doing work after Big Bridge Fest. So, just from a time perspective, weather and so forth, so. We haven't seen that, but we do see the scissor list, but I mean, it had nothing to do with little scaffolding.
they're gearing up to do something, I would say, in the next few weeks. Councilor Walton may be able to spend my own, this crew was there putting knivings in. It's major hassle. So there will be.
I'm just there for the money. I don't know.
may I ask a question about the covered bridge? I had someone ask me today, the graduating class of 1964. They're having a class reunion and they wanted to know if sometime, there's no date set yet. They wanted to know if there's any chance that the bridge could be shut down for 5 minutes so that they can all gather at the face of the bridge and get your picture taken. Would that be possible? Something like that be possible? No, no date yet, but he doesn't. If, so it might be in September, it might be, I don't know when. But is it, I just wanted to find out so I can tell him. If it's possible.
So we're talking about afterwards, but, I think that's with, Doug Dillon's to be less.
Great. Thank you. We just need a couple of volunteers in each end, wouldn't you, to hold traffic for a couple minutes?
Well, yeah. Chip, we could put Mr. Giberson up there.
There's no maybe about it.
Good.
Councilor Britton.
Maybe you could get run over twice too.
Item 9.5, policy P009, residential housing development agreement.
So, sharing this note with council, which I won't read, just to say that, as you may recall, I think we initially, approved that policy in, 2023, and we updated it in light of some of the policies and some of the things we learned, about provincial, 6633 rebate. As we continue to, sort of engage developers and discuss the implication of that policy with them, in light of or in consideration of the provincial rebates, I think we've come to the conclusion that there's one more round, probably a refinement needs to be applied to that policy, just so it's clear. What I mainly mentioned here is, for example, to allow the developer to wait until the 66 and 33 have expired for them to avail themselves of the municipal policy. So, extend the waiting period, if you will, originally a year to 2 years, and that's amenable to the developers we've talked to, and I think it's in keeping with the spirit of what we passed for municipal policy. And it's also be somewhat simpler to administer in some ways. So it also puts the control, if you will, or the decision in the hands of developers to when they want to take the option. So we've sort of mapped that out in a spreadsheet and shared with a couple of developers and how it would work. And I think we have a good idea of what change would make, but it does end up, unfortunately, being a little bit nuanced or complicated detail than rewriting that. So the plan would be for the next meeting, council will try to have an update of that policy. And then what would also follow is that, and we would want probably to establish contract with a couple of developers that would just cement that agreement with them. So they knew, if it extends out in the future, that that developer's agreement was sort of ironclad or sanction, regardless of what the future council and things may emerge. So.
Item 10.1, municipal branding and signage.
So I'll hand this section over to Michelle Vera, who will take us through the options, and this is the fun part of the evening for council.
So, CAO Weber and I have been working with Web Solutions on our branding strategy, as you know. They have prepared the guidelines, they're 99% completed, we'll have those at the end of this week. So in the meantime, we asked them to come up with some graphic options for our signage. So this is the wayfinding signs, so the ones that point you in the direction of how to find different municipal buildings, basically. And as well, the welcome to signs. So council may remember, we did get some ELG funding for both of these things. So the welcome to signs would be, yet to be determined by council, which locations, because there are dozens of community names within the municipality of Hartland now, which is probably going to be not financially feasible to put a welcome to sign at the entrance of every community. But that's yet to be determined by council. Once we have the design down pat, we'll be able to get some more firm quotes. And then we'll be able to let you know, okay, how many of this sign can we afford? And then you can figure out going from there, which communities to put them in. So for now, the question is, option 1 or option 2. So option 1 looks like a white background, but it's actually the light gray that is in our color palette. So it is just a really pale gray is what that would look like. So this is the option 1. So it has the lighter background with the darker letters, and the color logo. The sign, the little signs over here are 2 options, one with a little point on it and one with the rounded, but they would be to make this style of sign. So for example, where Orser Street meets Main Street across the road, there would probably be this type of sign to point to the different things that you would find. So that's option 1, and then option 2 is with the blue background. Again, this is the color that is in our logo for the little waves in the water. And the text would be the light gray. And again, it's a really pale gray that we have. So 2 different looks. And I would. Sorry? Your different look?
No,
Oh, you're voting for number two? Okay.
I just think too, like in the winter time, this is gonna stand out a lot more. This will kind of fade into the background. This will stand out, I think, a lot more in our winter months.
you think it's gonna snow, do you?
Well, at some point it will.
Were there any questions before we kind of
Did
put
the-
a vote?
Any information on visibility at night, which one might be more visible in the darkness?
I'm not sure if we can do the reflective, where the gray is. So that's something that I'd have to talk to, the company once we figure out which option we're going with, and then I'll have a better idea. But I mean, ideally, the part that's light would be reflective. So I'm not sure if that means that those parts would become white as opposed to the light gray. I'm just not sure how that treatment works, on the signage.
If they are reflective, then that enhances visibility for both options. If it's not reflective, the dark blue might be harder to see at night for some people.
Just as an idea, it might not be a bad idea to just write down the preference without going through a all at once vote, so as to say, that might encourage independence or. We did have a couple early votes on the board, you just jot it down on paper. I don't know. Just a suggestion, but
Pointing
yeah.
out, I think Stuart raises a good point though, with visibility at night, if that's the case. I don't know.
Wayne's being very, I mean, Councilor Britton's being very subtle.
Yeah. I would go with number two as well, and the pointed, I guess I would call it a chevron that's on the sign as opposed to the rounded edges. So it's giving a definite direction when people see it, which direction it's pointed in. So number two and the pointy arrows. We need some color on the sign. It needs to.
There's three,
I'm number one.
four.
Number one.
There's four right here on number two.
Number four.
Yeah, I don't know where you
I
are.
didn't know.
No, I know, we're looking
I
for.
find it very difficult to open up the city, see what looks like a tornado to do.
It looks like a what?
Oh, that might have just changed my.
What did he say? It looks like a what?
Toronto Maple Leaf Blue would be more inclined to go with number one, but honestly, they both look better than we have today, and I have to, with either case.
I just think to me, I think the blue will stick out more.
Many other signs are so white, right? You just see another white sign, you just ignore it. It's like speed signs, you ignore them.
The blue is the majority?
Seems like the,
So much for that secret ballot idea, Robert.
Or like Jerry Maguire, you had me at hello.
No, if we can't do a gray, the light gray reflective, we'll just go with the, white reflect, the traditional white reflective on it, just with the top on that darker background.
to complicate it, you could compromise. You could have some of it white, some of it blue. No,
No.
okay.
I think it's important to ask them about the reflectiveness, yeah, maybe some of the signs. I mean, like,
Especially not for the indefinite.
I like it. It's nice.
Did you know on that?
I know that.
I like the cat. And
Required, but what they can make reflective out of that.
we got your coverage sheet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
these are really, I mean, they're not,
Guideline, I guess what they call
not road.
Well, and so like.
I do, yeah.
But I don't think one's half of these.
A visitor information center this way.
Yeah.
I guess my other question is, do you need a decision between the flat and the arched windows?
No,
Okay.
no, it would all be,
Arched.
I was gonna say, what was the difference here? The difference here was the "We've Got You Covered" being
Yeah,
on the
exactly.
community signs.
Love it.
Because we did have to do an offset behind, the logo and the logo mark on the dark signs, because otherwise it was going to blend in, or else you'd have had to have a rectangle of gray behind it, so they added an offset, so similar to the word Waterville, so there's an offset on the word Waterville too, so that it would stand out more. So yeah, so for that reason, there was the option of having the tagline or not.
But everything will be arched. This won't be, this is a no.
I think there's two different size ones that we're
Okay.
looking at, and it's going to depend how much real estate we have and what the site triangle is of the location. But I think if we can do arched, we would probably do arched to be consistent with those. We may have to go to that rectangular version though, if it's going to cause a problem like at McLean Avenue, for example, that it might not work.
Is there also going to be some signage for bus parking for the tourist buses? And because isn't it ideally the goal to not have them parking next, like in the parking lot, but rather in behind?
That I'm not sure. I'm not sure where those
Discussions we've had
would be, because the town's property that's being leased doesn't include the Baptist church, for example, right? So, or their parking area. So I'm not sure where the buses are parking now. I kind of think they're over by 1282, aren't they? They're parking over there.
they're not going in the main parking lot?
I think they dropped them off.
Okay,
The town leases what has been elevated towards the Baptist church.
Yes.
And if they don't go right in the Torres Bureau parking lot, which seldom they do now, they go put front of the 1282 and over the side, 1282.
And M&A.
Yeah,
A lot of them are parking at M&A and walking through the bridge.
But a bus sign would be, I think it'd be nice to have when they pull in, so they know. Nice and visible.
thank you.
And that tagline that's there, is there a decision made on that? You made reference of it, Michelle?
Mhm.
Is,
I think we decided.
okay,
And sorry, what was it? I did include the tag
Yes.
on here?
Yeah.
Okay.
love it.
You don't wanna go to white, because it's.
Well, now that
traffic.
a female perspective is probably worth more than one vote. Probably worth two.
In today's society.
A female perspective is worth more than one vote. Where did you come up with that?
12 years of marriage.
Wait till you have 26 in, okay? Come back to visit that.
When you think about it, when we
49.
got the timeline, we've got you covered. This certainly is more attractive than having it outlined in like just a,
Also,
and I want you to know that there are 3 women in this.
Horrible.
room.
it will show everything.
After 48 years, you're gonna change your opinion on that.
You do, you like it way better.
And like, I just thought too, Miss Mayor, do you also think that if we have them colored, they will wear quicker?
I don't know about that. That
Like the
was,
blue would nick? You'd see every
I think
nick.
it's like a vinyl.
Scratch,
film that goes over
It's
the
laminated.
top.
See, now we should have went with
I think
the
you're gonna have to
vote.
worry more about defacing than,
Yeah.
than it
Is
fades.
there anybody, yeah, the face, you're right.
So nice.
I don't know. I like the color. I love the
I don't
color.
care what they're.
Everything's so bland. We just
It's
go. with
better
black
than what we
and white or
got.
something.
Which is nothing.
okay. Okay,
Thank you.
They're probably gonna be red after a while anyway.
okay. So actually, this does need to be a motion of council, I believe.
Be resolved, the council heart will approve offers.
Two.
Two, reuse municipal studies through Hartland.
Councilor Smith will second that.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Is there any question? Yes, sir.
No, I was just getting ready, your worship. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Since there kind of seems to be two, it should be almost unanimous. I don't know, maybe, should we have more time to,
No,
no, okay.
I can take.
Just go with your.
All right.
It always have to be unanimous.
All
I know.
those in favor, raise the right hand. Those opposed,
See?
motion is carried. Okay, item 10.2, bylaw relating to waste collection and disposal.
I know the council had seen a version of this and it was shared with the last committee, of the whole meeting. There are no, standard changes, the content was in the last, I know there are a couple of issues in play, what I would direct you to again is that really one of the key elements of this bylaw, if you look in section 2(O) and P is where we're defining two types of property, type A residential and type B. And it's the distinction of there's two distinctions there, two things that really the definition hinges on. It's the number of dwelling units, the main consideration where type A is 4 or less and type B is 5 or more. And that the key distinction we're making here is that those properties, however configured, access a public road or street through one private road, driveway, or vehicle entrance. So when you think of, and just use examples, the apartments behind Tim Hortons have one driveway that they access. The McMullen Road has one driveway for which you get back to McMullen Road on for the apartments off there. And if we look at back at Glimmick, they have 6 units sharing one driveway, even though there's 3 duplexes, it would be a total of 6, which would make it a type B. And if we look at one more example, we think of the tiny homes that are on McLean, they each have their own driveway, so they would be type A. So that then defines if you're A, you need to have, well, you can just have garbage receptacles for each of the premises. And type B, you end up having to have a dumpster. And of course, this would be extended to properties in every part of on Somerville Road and every other property municipality would therefore be subject to this rule. And that really is to me, the crux of it, and not that the rest is immaterial, it's all matters, but it's more just defining type of waste and standard things that are, that I think that those would read this, their attention would be tuned to that distinction, because that drives, whether a dumpster is required or not. So, what I would say is, if that distinction, if that key distinction is acceptable to council, I think every other refinement we might make for this could be done through second reading, third. It wouldn't be a substandard. That's really the essential key thing. And therefore, you could, if you so chose, to vote on that this evening in the first reading. And I would think with this one, we would go first, second, third over a period and look to enact this for in the September timeframe, as opposed to doing a second, third. What's that?
Has it been posted on the website?
Yeah.
Be resolved that the council of Hartland approves the first reading of bylaw B-30 relating to waste collection and disposal.
Councilor Smith will second that motion.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Is there any question? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise their right hand. Motion is carried. Item 10.3, municipal grants.
So, our treasurer had planned to be here until, there was issue with flights and so forth, and got on Calgary, so she was unable to be here today, but I can speak to the 3 grants that are there. So, Waterville Community Club was one that was, specifically budgeted, in our 2024 in that amount, budget. So, that was expected and planned. The next 2 were not, but they're both in the opinion of, the town, and I discussed this with Treasurer Pelkey. I think, in our view, worthy causes and both, provide very important services in our community. So the first is the River Valley Cancer Support Group, that helps families, who have to incur expenses to, be with, patients who are going through, that process. And, there we decided on a figure of 1,500 as being a good one, which I believe would provide, I think that we sort of said that was kind of a month of, the program. And Hartland Helpers, I think, everyone in council is well aware of the organization and sort of the range of things they do in the town. And, that we had thought about 1,000, for that particular grant.
Be resolved that the council of Hartland approves the Waterville Community Club to receive a municipal grant in the amount of $4,000.
Councilor Smith will second that.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion is carried.
Be resolved, the council of Hartland approves the River Valley Cancer Support Group to receive a municipal grant in the amount of $1,500. And
Yeah, Councilor Britton.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Any question? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion is carried.
Be it resolved that the council of Hartland approves the Hartland Helpers to receive a municipal grant in the amount of $1,000.
Councilor Smith will second that.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion is carried. Item 10-4, Housing Accelerator Fund.
Federal government, since our last meeting, announced the second round, which started on Monday, yesterday, the 15th, and extends through till September. I think Michelle may have the exact date, but there's a bit of a window for applications. We'd originally engaged a company, at Fairgrieve, based in Moncton, Fairgrieve Consulting, to look at this, and I'll boil down sort of the consideration of the council this evening to one thing, but I'd say the vote to go forward and do this is something we would table for future meeting, but in this particular, and it may be true of others, there's a $5,000 non-refundable fee charged with preparing the application, whether one wins an award or does not. And I can say, I am somewhat ambivalent, which means the pros and cons of that. On moving with that, I can say I'm a little bit, now you can say that, being the primary author of the first submission, which ended up not being awarded, I may be a little gun shy about the second. But $5,000 for us is a meaningful figure in our budget, and you can see we just ended up providing awards of not much more than that for municipal grants. And then there's a 10%, in this scenario, 10% fee of the award, which would be covered as part of the cost, so it wouldn't be 10% out of pocket. But in any event, the 5,000 is probably the thing that sticks with me. Now, we could go back, and we haven't done this, go back and see if there'd be some consideration of adjustment. I think not. I think that's the standard model they apply. So just wondering if there's feedback from council and whether that arrangement is one that council would be supportive of.
Both you and the treasurer worked on our first application,
Yes.
and not a reflection of the application in that the federal government chose not to involve smaller communities at that time. Is that a fair assessment?
Definitely the reject rate was very high in smaller communities.
Especially in our region, flat province.
Yes.
So I personally would be opposed to paying $5,000 for someone to do an application that I feel our staff were very confident in filling the first time. The lack of success for our first application has no reflection on preparing the application.
Agreed. I agree.
And just before, I guess I would ask the question, what do we stand to gain and benefit with the accelerator fund?
The accelerator fund does promise some, it depends on what you actually apply for, of course. It's several $100,000. It's reaching toward $1 million or more, depending on what you go for. So it's a substantial fund. It's an unusual fund, and it does not directly fund specific projects. So it's not like you're asking, I'll just use the Rockland Road development as an example. You're not asking for $500,000 for Rockland Road. What you're doing is you're creating policies, standards, procedures, doing things like getting a housing assessment done and things of this sort. For which that then qualifies you for funding that can be used to fund projects, but it's indirect. And which is one of the challenges of writing the proposal. I'd say a defensive, not defensive Fairview per se, but there is a nuance to writing these. There is language and nuance to how you do it to kind of perfect or optimize your application that, you know, present your projects, because here you have certain initiatives or projects you're presenting and that you do so in a way that, optimizes your chances of being awarded.
Did they provide any feedback? Sorry, Councilor, did they provide feedback on the last application or just a simple not at this time?
I don't think they provided substantial feedback in the last application, and there might have been some high level discussion, but I think the idea would be that it would be reserved until the point where it would be recast. And
So if we did get a grant of $200,000, we're only getting $180,000 out of it anyways, because you gotta give them $5,000 plus 10% of the award, so that's.
yeah, it's pretty standard, arrangement, I think, with companies that do provide. Dillon Consulting did this work, last time. And, for several municipalities in New Brunswick and around the country.
Did any of them get anything?
I'm not, sir, I know many did not, got rejected. I don't know what, I'll call it their batting average. I don't know what units or Tony's batting. I should add one other thing. We have asked for our references from Fairview, for reference. And, we haven't obtained them yet, but, we're hoping to sort of, see who they'd work with and understand something about the success and the nature of the engagement that they had with those other municipalities. And, so it's something we may take away, and we may shop for another partner, or as, Deputy Mayor says, sort of go forward. I think it's fair to say, Michelle made a comment, like, I don't know if the Western Valley Regional Service Commission is actively participating or, collaborating with municipalities to provide these, or to create these applications. Is that fair?
The Service Commission would be doing that. The Service Commission is trying to do housing needs assessment, which is one of the components that's typically required to be able to get that this housing accelerator fund. One of the acceptable cases or requests that you can ask for is for incentive money to give developers to help develop. And the other thing that I did want to make clear, it's not 10% plus the $5,000. The $5,000 would be deducted from their 10% if they are successful. But if they're not successful, then we would have to pay the full $5,000. I'm not clear if there'd be any assistance from RDC if our application wasn't successful, if they would assist with that $5,000 fee.
Yeah, and there were, I'm gonna forget the Regional Service Commission, the southern part of the province with St. Andrews and St. Stephen in that area, but they were more active working with communities. And I think they put in not a group one, but they were more active participating in the first round. So some did, some didn't. There wasn't one general rule across the province as to who did what and how it was done, but I think I don't know if, I think Moncton was awarded. I'm trying to think of the ones I heard in the province that were successful. It might have been the only one, but anyway.
So for now,
I move that we defer 10-4 to our meeting at the end of the month in hopes that we may receive reference on the information. If I can discuss at that time. That's what I made, Ken.
I would second that.
motion has been moved and seconded. Any questions? All those in favor, raise your right hands. Motion is carried. Item 10.5, support for liquor license for Belly Laughs on the Bridge.
Be it resolved that the town of Hartland approves Bridgeview Plaza to receive a liquor license in support of the 2024 Belly Laughs on the Bridge of Ed.
Seconded.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Is there any question?
That was a belly laugh in himself. Yeah.
Hearing that, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Motion is carried. Item 11, new business. 11.1, annual report, and you've already discussed that. Is that correct?
I have, I don't know if council, if there are any members of council could have any feedback at this time, and if not, we'll just move forward and continue to work on it.
Okay. Item 11.2, Fire Association sponsorship.
Be it resolved, the council of Hartland approves the CAO purchase of business card for $250 in the children's fire safety booklet. An annual publication from the New Brunswick Association of Fire Chiefs.
I'll second that.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Is there any question?
Well, did we put Mike's picture on that business card?
I'm not opposed to that.
I think I'd add that to motion, please.
Yeah, right. I'll deny that one.
So that's a no.
Is that a question or a statement?
Conflict of interest in each of them.
Yeah.
Decorum.
Good chance to use our new logo.
Yeah, yeah. No other questions? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion is carried. Item 11.3, CN Rail Proclamation.
So I shared the email and, that came with this 11.3 in the council package. This is of course a high level, I'll call it high level, proclamation of support for, rail safety week. It does not come with any requirement for funding or spending, or it's just simply a public, proclamation.
You don't.
Be it resolved, the Council of Hartland urges support for the Rail Safety Week as follows. Whereas Rail Safety Week is to be held across Canada from September 23rd to 29th, 2024. Whereas educating and informing the public about rail safety, reminding the public that railways, right-of-ways, and private property, enhancing public awareness of the dangers associated with the highway rail grade crossings, ensuring pedestrians and motorists are looking and listening while near railways, and obeying established traffic laws will reduce the number of avoidable fatalities, injuries caused by incidents involving trains and citizens. And whereas Operation Lifesaver, the public/private partnership, whose aim is to work with the public, rail industry, governments, police services, media, and others to raise rail safety awareness. Whereas CN and the Operation Lifesaver have requested the council adopt this resolution in support of its ongoing efforts to raise awareness, save lives, and prevent injuries in the communities, including our municipality.
Second.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Any questions?
Do we have a sign for safe rail crossing?
As, and I have one statement to make on it. We're putting a resolution through here and we haven't got a railroad within 100 kilometers of us.
But there are people in this community that travel to places that do have railways. So
That's why I'm gonna vote yes.
Any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion is carried.
Juniper's closer, by the way, than 100 kilometers.
I just wondered if you could all please take note of the time.
You can start.
As I announce, the date of our next meeting is July 30th for committee of the whole.
Question?
Just one more, please. And August 13th, 6:30 regular meeting. Yes. That's the 30th.
As the July 30th meeting is an alternative date from a regularly scheduled meeting. Some councilors being the month of July have made vacation plans, long-standing plans. And yet we're required to record attendance of council. If someone is absent for a meeting that is on an alternative date, can some consideration be given to the roll call?
You mean they can be present if they're on vacation and they're not here?
Something like that.
that will be me. I booked vacation around the meetings and it just switched, so I won't be available on the 30th.
But you will be here.
No, I'll be in Quebec.
Don't be here in
No,
spirit.
you'll
Oh, okay.
you'll be here regardless.
I think there will always be exceptions because life happens and, you know, it's okay.
Nobody attention. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're worship.
Motion to adjourn?
I'll second that.
Yeah, second.
That's right here. Right here.
Do I dare show up at home at this early date?
We still got closed session. Don't get.
No, we don't.
No, we don't.
Not closed. Not closed session.
What?
All right.